All right, procedures to make a valid S-corp election. Here, again, kind of what I talked about as well, but these are the specifics. We have to ensure eligibility, make sure that all of those criteria we saw are in check, then obtain shareholder consent. Now, it doesn't have to be the first day. I could have, in my example, created a C corporation and then waited 2 years, or I could have waited 3 days. It doesn't matter. But I would need to obtain shareholder consent at that time. We'll even see examples of where you've got 5 shareholders, all family members. We got mom, dad, 2 kids, and then let's say grandma. Now, let's say grandma's on vacation on a cruise and you can't reach her, and they want to form an S-corp. Well, because you can't reach grandma and get her consent to change this to an S-corp, the S-corp election would not be valid. That's actually something we'll see in examples on the exam. And then you got to complete this form. This is nothing you're going to have to memorize for the exam, but you got to include all the info for all the shareholders, all the shares owned, everything like that. Make sure you're compliant with the IRS. All right, continuing on, we're gonna, once we complete the form, we're gonna file the form. Again, nothing too crazy at that step. Now, timely filing, in order for this to be effective for the current tax year, again, this is what we saw. I would be familiar with this for sure. The form must be filed by the 15th day of the 3rd month of the corporation's tax year. If the corporation has a calendar tax year, which means it ends on December 31st, the form must be filed by March 15th. If the corporation wants the election to be effective for the following tax year, the form can be filed at any time during the preceding tax year. So that's something we'll see again. Like I said, I've got examples of how that works, but make sure you're familiar with that. But next, we're going to await IRS confirmation. Again, not an important step to memorize. It's kind of a logical one. And then we're going to file required tax returns. We are now going to file the Form 1120S, which I would know that for sure. We have the 1120S for S corporations, 1120 for C corporations. It's not the 1120C. It's just the normal 1120. Now, return for an S corporation. Additionally, each shareholder must report their share of S corporation income, losses, all that activity on their individual tax return using the Schedule K1 provided by the corporation. This is something super important for the exam. Separately stated items, super important. Kind of touched upon this in our business structures lesson, and we'll dive into this much more heavily. Luckily, we've got partnerships as well after you get through the S-corp lessons, and there's a lot of similarities between these two because they're both flow-through entities, essentially act in the same way. Their Schedule Ks are almost identical. There are some differences between those, but I will walk you through that process similar to what we did in business structures and other lessons, showing you the tax forms as essentially large calculations. Here is a nice, wonderful example here. We've got a small family business, Family Bakery Inc. And as you've seen throughout the exam, we've got a lot of examples that include bakeries because I just love me some good snacks. Get some muffins, get some cookies, and call it a day. They decided to elect S corporation status to take advantage of pass-through taxation. The corporation has 5 shareholders, so okay, cool. We don't have anywhere near 100, so we're already looking good there. Each owning a different percentage of the outstanding stock. We've got a family of a father, a mother, a daughter, a son, and then good old Aunt Karen. The company collected written consent from all shareholders except for Aunt Karen, who has been unreachable for some time and owns 1% of the outstanding stock. Despite the efforts of the family to contact her and obtain her written consent, they proceeded without her approval. Unfortunately, this election has failed. You can see a multiple choice question about this. Was this a successful election? And it may try to trick you, saying that, yeah, there's only one class of stock, right? And everything was filed properly on time. And it's got everything else. But in this case, just because that 1% was not approved, we are invalid here. They did not obtain her written consent. Therefore, the election is not valid. The company has to obtain the written consent from all shareholders, including Aunt Karen, before they can successfully elect to be treated as an S corporation. Here's a nice convenient little way to remember and view how this works in terms of when is your effective date of an S-corp, and then we'll get some examples in. Now, if the election to become an S-corp happens before the 15th day of the 3rd month of the year, then you will be an S-corp as of the beginning of the current year. If it happens after the 15th day of the 3rd month, then it's going to have to wait until the next year. Scenario 1 here, election made before the 15th day of the 3rd month. In year 1, example corporation is incorporated on January 1st, so that means it's a C corp. That does not mean they're applying for an S corp. And then point 2, on February 10th, before the 15th day of the 3rd month, example corporation submits form 2553 to the IRS to make the S corporation election. Since the election is made before the 15th day of the 3rd month, the effective date of the S corporation is the beginning of the current tax year, which is year 1. So in this case, example corporation becomes an S corporation starting from January 1st of year 1. In scenario 2, the election is made after the 15th day of the third month. In year 1, example corporation is incorporated on January 1st again, so that means it's a C-corp, not an S-corp. Because you incorporate to become a C-corp, you elect to become an S-corp on March 20th, so this is after the 15th day of the third month. Example corporation submits that form to the IRS to make the election. However, it doesn't mean they can't become an S-corp. They're just going to have to wait until they get to the next year. Since the election is made after the 15th day of the third month, the effective date of the S corporation is the beginning of the next tax year of the third month. In this case, example corporation becomes an S corporation starting from January 1st of year 2. Here's another example here. CityView Inc., a calendar year corporation, started its operations in year 1. On November 15th, year 3, CityView decided to elect S corporation status and obtained unanimous consent from all its shareholders. The company continued to meet all eligibility requirements for S status during year 4. When did CityView's S status become effective? Well, the answer is going to be January 1st, year 4. Since CityView made a valid S corporation election during year 3 and the eligibility requirements were met throughout year 4, the S corporation status became effective at the beginning of the next tax year, which is January 1st, year 4. We're just seeing all these wonderful examples. It obviously is lending itself well that this is a smaller type of entity. The 100 shareholder requirement as well, that's important. Think about it. If you can't get a hold of one shareholder, that is not going to be good. You're not going to be able to make changes to the S-corp, elect to become an S-corp. That's why it very much lends itself well to small.
Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.